Greetings, I'm Caffeine Rage, and I'm back with the Sunday Sampler. This week we're going to be taking a quick look at Moonlighter. This is a business sim slash roguelite adventure dungeon crawler loot 'em up, developed by Digital Sun and published by 11-Bit Studios. And as per usual, this is a review copy. So I am back, and we are diving into Moonlighter this week. And I'm trying to think of a good way to really condense all my thoughts into a very short phrase here. How about meh? Yeah, I think meh works for this. Moonlighter is one of those games that everything about the formula I like, but it just isn't done incredibly well. I think of it as having a nice steak, but there's no seasoning on it whatsoever. Yes, someone can enjoy just meat, but no salt, no pepper, nothing. Yeah, it's just kind of bland. And that's really my thoughts on Moonlighter. I think a better example would be a cake. Alright? A nice chocolate cake, but there's no salt in it to bring out all the flavors, so it tastes a bit off. And that's exactly what I think about Moonlighter. It tastes a bit off. It's pretty, but yeah. So let's just dive right into things. I want to show the options real quick, mostly because I'm running the normal difficulty, even though it recommends hard, and then there's very hard. Because I find this game fucking tedious. Graphical qualities, I mean, pretty much bog standard. I have audio turned down way low, but even then, the audio is very, very loud in my ears, and controls are fully rebindable, thankfully. So, let's continue. And this should put me right in the shop. I guess we'll find out here in a moment. Loading is still loading. Loading some more. Thinking about loading more. I hope this actually loads while I'm recording. There we go. That took a little bit longer than usual. Okay, so this is a game of really two parts. There is the business management aspect where you're running the shop called the Moonlighter, which I have to say, yeah, I'm very impressed with how the graphics look on this game. It's a very clean and well animated pixel art style. I mean, just look at like the oozing bucket there and everything else. But in this game, it's two parts. Really, the business management is the forefront of things, with really the dungeon running kind of on the side. You're moonlighting, per se. Anyway, I'm on the level 2 shop, and we'll go outside and take a look at the job board to be able to show you some of the upgrades here in just a moment. And most of this is pretty straightforward. If you ever played Raceteer, a little bit of an older game these days, and I'm going to be making allusions to Raceteer, Binding of Isaac, and Enter the Gungeon. Not necessarily in that order, but for good reason. This feels like Raceteer Light, which, considering Raceteer wasn't exactly a deep game, this game has the same basic idea, but it doesn't really do anything with it. So I'm going to pop outside real quick and show the central board, because this gives you an idea of what's going on, because you're able to bring in different people. I have 4 of the 5 in. I can't do the I don't have the popularity for the last merchant, but there's also the shop upgrades. I'm on the level, well, technically 1 shop, but this is the first upgrade, so 2 of 5. And as you level them up, you get more and more shop space, but because of how the game does its loot, which we'll get to when we actually run the dungeon, it makes it more and more tedious. And you can just see just how expensive the loot gets after, or the upgrades get after a while, which is something else. Yeah, it just feels so bland, the entire gameplay loop. I have the first upgrade of the cash register, and even jumping up to the second grade is 20,000 gold. Granted, I have enough, but everything revolves around your gold. And this is really grind to win, big time. So if I run my gold too low, I'm going to have a bad time because I cannot leave the dungeon without paying gold. Yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. So I'm going to run the shop for a day and really talk about things. So I have a few things put down. Some of these are things I haven't sold yet. You could do a history of things with just hitting on the controller right trigger. And it shows 4 different options here. The one that you want is the one that's actually highlighted right now, which is, just the happy face, which means that it's a good profit, but you're not ripping the consumers off. Further to the right, they're kind of meh about it. They may still buy it, but it hurts your reputation and it makes it so that item gets less and less and less popular, which brings the price down, at least in theory. Only thing I've ever really saw an impact on is actually very low price stuff to begin with, because the margins are so low to begin with. So yes, it does affect it, but for a high price item, it usually takes a while. And then, if the price is just absurd, they'll just not even buy. And then the one on the far left, that means that you're selling it for too low and they're getting a very, very, very good deal. But it's like this for every single thing. You can see, like right there, I sold that for 1,000 gold, and they found it was a really good deal. But so how do I price these things? That's a good question. As far as I could tell, unless I'm just missing something, it's trial and error. So you'd see I've put some things here that I haven't sold before, or this one I've sold, but I've had a too low a price. So I'm doing some exploratory pricing on these. So let's just open up the shop and we'll talk about this as we go. So hold A, and there we go. And people start coming in, and you may start noticing here very quickly that we're going to be seeing the same consumers over and over and over again. Like, oh, okay, so that was too low a price for that. So we sell that, and you found something up here that was too low a price, or too high a price, I should say. Okay, you saw the popularity on that change. But as people come in, they start looking at things. Oh, okay, so these books are probably too low a price, so let's bump that up. But you can see how this is starting to get a little annoying, that there's no way to really tell. In Reciteria, you're able to do some bargaining back and forth, and it made it feel more natural. But in this, you're just kind of guessing. Granted, you can get a little bit of an idea based on the merchant that will sell you things at a very, very high price, to try to get a feel for just what's going on with the price. Okay, so that is too high. So I didn't actually grab stuff out of my inventory to restock here, so we're gonna have to do something about that here in a moment. Oh, so that was still too low. Okay, so let's head back here, open up the chest. You see my just a random assortment of crap here. Don't have this organized very well, but granted, it's kind of hard to do whenever you start getting a ton of stuff. So, okay, that's thing up front is still priced too highly. We'll just grab some stuff here. Magic wood, that sounds great. Some plant flesh, some light essence. Forest history as well. So, but occasionally we also see thieves. So 2,000 was still way too low for that. So, oh, it's just my fault of screwing up the thing. So 5,000. That is a good price for that, I'm assuming. Oh, okay, so let's just put one down for that and put it for 1,000. Like you see, I'm only running one table right now because I only have so much to sell. Oh, okay, so I believe that's a thief because you just saw the icon that appeared over his head. Yeah, that's definitely a thief, but because I have to wait until he makes his move to be, see, he's being kind of shifty, and then boom. But you may notice that went to my inventory, it didn't go back to the table. So because I was doing an exploratory thing on that, I have to go back here and put that back. And it's just tedious because the thief gets you up multiple times. In one day, I had the thief show up 4 fucking times. And because he kept trying to grab things that were being priced to try to figure out the actual price for things, I had to go back and reset the price, and it's it's a good example of how tedious the game can be. So that is, let's just do 1,000. I have no idea if that's the right price or not, and it's hard to tell. So she's happy about that. And different consumers do look for different things, but the ones that are looking for weapons are, oh look, it's him again. See what I meant by the thief coming back? You can't even get the little fucker arrested. He just keeps coming back, and now he's gonna grab something. Or okay, the shop actually closes before he gets a chance to. But that's a good example right there of the thief showing up again. And that's a business day. You're just standing around, batting away the thief and ringing up the cash register. That is it. And assuming that you haven't figured out the pricing here, you're also doing that. But that's kind of, once you figure this out, or just use a Steam guide, which honestly I don't blame you for that. It's, once again, just kind of just busy work. But you have to do it because everything else revolves around your amount of gold that you have. So let's see, I have potions on me, I have my 2 weapons, so, and I have a fair amount of armor. So let's go visit the blacksmith. And I'll show you a few things. So we have the blacksmith here. Unfortunately, it's nighttime, so I can't go to the other shop. But this shop essentially sells everything that the dungeon drops, but at a high price. It's meant to really fill out the last item or two for a blacksmith recipe. So let's go here. So we have 3 sets of helmets, 3 different breastplates, and 3 different boots. And if you're able to see on the right hand side there, one increases your speed and gives some health, one gives more health but no change in speed, the other is even more health but slows you. And that is all your armor choices. And weapons aren't exactly the most interesting either. As far as I could tell, granted, I never used one of these because everything is such a money sink. One is higher single damage or directional damage, and the other appears to be a AoE, but also some of the weapons also slow you, and different ones have different special abilities or different ranges. And I have to say that some of the rooms feel a little unfair if you're not running the particular weapon that you need. Like this one, I'm lacking whatever the top item is. I need one of that to make a bow, to then be able to progress up the tree here. Or maybe that's just element. I think that's actually elemental damage. Correction on that. See, they don't exactly explain it. So non-elemental and elemental damage. But I have this wish list, so whenever I see those items pop up, I'm able to hold on to them. So it's a little bit easier. But you also have over here potions and enchantments. And potions have two, well, the healing potions have two different recipes. One is if you have the ingredients, she just charges you a bit of a fee to make the potion. But if you don't, she charges you out the ass. And once again, I mean, just look at the price. 23, almost 2,400 gold for a single 75 health potion whenever I have 195 health because of my armor. A little ridiculous. And enchantments, I'm not sure. Okay, I could do enchantments. So 16,000 for another 20-ish damage on my short sword, so sure. Another 16,000 on the spear. So I've depleted a good chunk of my money already. And the weapons are also used as consumables for the blacksmithing, and the blacksmithing is fucking insane. Because I mean, look at that, 64,000, and it consumes the previous one, so you can't just jump to it. If you want to have one of each, the elemental and non-elemental, you have to go through the entire chain. So just these two is over 1 million. I mean, hell, even up to it is 750,000 ish. And the same goes for all the armors, all the weapons. Granted, not to the extreme of the armors, but there's only so many armors, and each armor is only unlocked in each of the dungeons. Which, let's go over to the dungeons and we'll start talking about combat. Combat wants to be a lot more fast-paced than what it actually is, and there's a reason that I'm gonna say wants to be, because it has its dodge rolls, it has its blocks with this particular weapon, or switching out, I'm able to do a charge attack. But you may notice as I get a little closer to the dungeon and it opens up, there's a definite delay. And if I go to the short sword, once again, I'm stopping. And some of these weapons do some knockback. So I think you're seeing the problem here. If I hit something, it gets knocked back. Sometimes. And then it gets knocked out of my secondary strike. And this has a combo system where the third consecutive attack does, I think it's double damage. So, yeah, it makes absolutely no sense, at least for these weapons. The ranged weapons, the bow, I think it does make a little bit more sense, and for the spear, potentially. But I've leveled up the sword a lot more, and it's a lot more damaging. So, yeah, it wants to be a lot more faster paced, but it isn't. Let's just dive into the dungeon. And this is pretty much your bog standard roguelite dungeon mechanic, where It's chunk-based procedural generation, where it's a bunch of pre-made rooms. Think Binding of Isaac here, but all kind of jumbled together. So here we are, first room, first level of the dungeon, and these dungeons have 3 levels, and you can see I'm just annihilating things because I have a leveled up sword here. But we should talk about inventory management. There is no backpack upgrades whatsoever, and that makes actually supplying the stuff to your shop unspeakably tedious. You do have 2 options here. You could do a merchant pendant, which costs, well, in this case, 200 gold, to do a one-way transport without finishing the dungeon. Which, finish the dungeon or get to the point where you can't continue any further, hit the pendant, go sell your stuff. If you die, everything that is in your backpack gets dropped, but you're on the person stays. So these 5 items. Or you could do the 2-way teleport with the merchant emblem. But we're on the right track. This pool always shows up on the path to the next floor. So I think that's actually the portal there. This is a bad example of trying to show off some of the combat, but also some of the items have restrictions, so must be placed at the top or the bottom of the bag, and some of them also destroy items or change items as a curse or sometimes a blessing depending on the item. But it makes your inventory management take a lot more time. So okay, there is the door to the next dungeon, so let's go just dive into that. I just find it very bland because there's nothing to really shake things up. You're always the same character. You're always fighting the same enemies. Oh, occasionally something does pop up like a mimic, but even that, because my level ups, is not exactly tough to deal with. Oh. See how the pause almost cost me there. But yeah, there's just nothing to shake things up like in the dungeon and Binding of Isaac, where you get different weapons to be able to change things. Oh, that was my fault. You're always fighting the same enemies. You're always using the same loadout. So, okay, here's an example of cursed items. So, if I place it up here on my person, though, it doesn't affect anything. So, that works for that. So, destroys 1 item. So, we'll just put that there. And put that there. And quick loot the rest. Sometimes it does give an option to for things to be teleported back home, which is nice. That is that room done. Oh, and I clipped the side there. Yeah, I'm not showing off the combat nearly as well as I should on this. Maybe I should have done the secondary dungeon, but I didn't want to spoil it. Because I just unlocked it not too long ago, and I'm going the wrong way. So let's go to the south. And he's dead. And that's good. Wait, how the hell am I supposed to get in there to get the rest of the loot? Well, I guess I can't. Irritating. Which kind of does bring me to a point. Oh, this is a lore room where they dole out some of the story. in little bite-sized pieces. Some of the rooms feel unspeakably unfair. I'm just kind of clicking through this and ignoring what it says. Well, some of the rooms feel unspeakably unfair if you're not running the exact right weapon or the right loadout. But because of how the items are handled, where you only have 2 weapon slots and 5 safe item slots, you're eating up a lot of your inventory space if you want to bring a 3rd item or extra potions beyond the 5 that you can put on your person. So once again, it's a problem of backspace. Up there's the healing pool, which means we're in the right track. Oh, and fuck these slimes in particular. They love to just kind of try to swallow you. But yeah, it's just very interesting. Like I said, I'm showing it in probably the worst possible way of... Oh, there's a good example of screwing up my directional... Ah, for fuck's sake. Because of how the combat has that kind of pause. It cost me a couple of hits there. And I do have the healing pool that kind of tops me out, or close to it. But even then, you know, it's could be done so much better. It has been done so much better in other games. So, once again, you know, destroys an item, fun, and mystery items, great. And something else that is irritating about the item system is these items that have individual modifiers. Oh, I can also drop items here to just destroy and get a little bit of money back. That has individual modifiers. It doesn't allow me to stack them unless the modifier has been resolved, making the backpack even smaller than what you would think. I really wanted to like this game. I really did. But it's just... Oh, and we lost the item there because it dropped into the pit. Unspeakably unfair there. It's just... It really lacks the replayability. It doesn't have a good roguelite or business management system. It doesn't have any of the charm that Raceteer did. Oh. It just is. I know that sounds unfair, but it's just, yeah, it is. It's one of those times that, yeah, man, it really fits the bill. Like right here is more of the items that are fragile, and I'm not going to even worry about the loot now because we... Oh, and here's a good example of where the game is just fucking with you because it throws all these things, and if you're not running the exact right weapon, well, screw you. If I was running a bow and the spear, yo, that would have been a bad day. But yeah, it's just... I think I've pretty much said up my piece on this, really. We're just kind of circling the drain. Oh, here's a good modifier. Immediately sends an item to home. Sometimes that pops up. I'm assuming that identifies it. I hope. Just take the hit. And that's too big a gap. Yeah, it tries to do the dodge roll from Enter the Gungeon with a bit more Binding of Isaac and Raceteer, and just doesn't do it for me. It's not to say it's a bad game, it just doesn't do it for me. So, let's see. Well, only one way to go now. Yeah, I just want to finish the dungeon and be done with it. Yeah, this is one of those rooms that can be unspeakably unfair. Thankfully, I was just able to charge it, but I have lost a lot of health and actually died in that room a few times. We'll just go ahead and pop a health potion just to be safe. For maximum safety by healing. Yep. Because this always appears on the path. And see the knockback there, along with him kind of slowly getting out of the way as well. I wonder if the boss is going to be here, because I killed it before. No, it isn't. So my only option is to use a pendant, I guess. Which is annoying. So it locks me in. Nope, I can just leave. Yeah. In order to leave, then you have to use the pendant if you've killed the boss already. I actually didn't know that. Interesting. Actually, no, not really. So we'll just use the pendant, show that. Not going to do the two-way teleportation, but you can see, you know, killed 87 things, looted 7 chests, got my loot. Yeah, I could have done a lot better on loot, but didn't really care, because in order to really fund a big shop or a bigger shop like this, you have to go in, do the two-way teleportation, drop off everything, come back to the dungeon, run it some more, because even with the 2 tables, it's starting to get a little bit tough to be able to, well, to stock it all. Here's the other shop, by the way. Where you can see just how expensive this is. So you could probably use this as a basis for your prices, but it's... yeah, this guy doesn't show up for quite a while. I'm about 5-ish hours in already. So I'm just going down my list, see if there's anything else to really mention, but I think we've covered all the bases. It is an interesting story, I did want to say that. It's just, since it's given out so piecemeal, it's tough to really feel invested in it. You know, there's the old man that's around here somewhere that keeps saying, oh, I'm the last of my shopkeeper's family, I need to, it's this guy. More nights out in the dungeons, boy. You wouldn't be doing anything so foolish as searching for the Guardian now. Don't know why he cares so much. I mean, I'm just the local shopkeep these days. And I'm the last of the shopkeep family, so. It's not like there's other shops. I mean, there's this douchebag over here who just sells things for an extreme profit. But yeah. And I do want to applaud the devs for doing some heavy bug fixing, but they also seem to release the game in a very, very, very rough state. If the forums are anything to go by. But 2 major bug fix patches in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. But yeah, a very interesting concept, but I gotta say that Racing to Hero still has done it better. I mean, Racing to Hero has a lot more interesting options. It has the kind of a relationship system going on. It has actual bartering, so you could deal with that. Yeah. I think we're pretty much done here, though. We've beat this horse to death. If this does look interesting to you, I don't blame you. I do want to find it a lot more interesting, but I've played better. I think that may just be my problem. But as always, constructive feedback is greatly appreciated, either in the comments below, or if you don't really have anything to say but want to let me know that you've enjoyed or hated this. The appropriate buttons are there, and subscribe if you see more of the Sunday Sampler and my other content, which should be starting back up soon. As always, thank you for watching. I've been Caffeine Rage, and I'll see you again next time with hopefully something a little bit, well, more tasty, to go back to my original analogy. Or would it be similar? It would be a simile, wouldn't it? And I'm rambling. Bye.